So with that, my name is David Birkin. I'm the Scoutmaster for Troop 2 in Corvallis, part of Shintimony District. We're going to talk tonight about swimming and how our units are going out on swimming. This is not about the swimming merit badge. This is more about what we can do, how to be safe with our units, how we can take them and do activities with our units that involve swimming. So some of the things to talk about tonight. Second. So tonight's topics, we're going to talk about safety. Of course, when you talk about swimming, some sort of important discussion has to be around safety. Talk about the guide to safe scouting, trainings that go along with safety, and safety basics. We'll also talk about, so once we know about the safety, we'll talk about what are some of the things that BSA has as organized activities that include swimming. Summer camps, some of the merit badges that are included with that, and some of the other activities and places you can go that include swimming as part of that. And lastly, we'll talk about troop activities, unit activities, and this is where I really want to have an open forum. So please be prepared to talk about the places that you have taken your units that are excellent. So some of us can take a lot of notes to take our units as, include swimming as part of that activity. So to get started, the key to a safe and effective unit aquatics activities is informed and conscientious unit leadership. Serious mishaps during BSA events are rare. Although various aquatic activities can involve some degree of risk, those risks are mitigated by the training and commitment of BSA volunteer leaders. Properly conducted swimming and boating programs are safe as well as fun, exciting, and rewarding. This is why we do this with our scouts, because they like it. So let's start off with the important part. The important part with any swimming activity is using the guide to safe scouting. And if you've looked at the guide to safe scouting on the BSA website, they have a whole aquatics safety section. We'll talk a little bit about that, but some of the things we'll talk about here are in regards to the different responsibilities. And I'm not going to go through the whole, this is not a safe swim defense presentation. This is not a safety afloat presentation, but those two training programs kind of govern the BSA swimming and boating activities. Both of them specify that the youth are to be supervised by mature and conscientious adults age 21 or older. Now, these 4 points are critical to talk about, that the leaders understand and knowingly accept the responsibility for the safety of the unit. They are experienced in this particular activity. They're confident in their own ability to respond to an emergency, and are trained, this is the big one, trained and committed to the 9 points of BSA safety afloat, or the 8 points of safe swim defense. Okay. The two top and bottom points of that, understand and accept the responsibility, and is trained, can be, the middle two can be waived as part of, if you take your youth to a swim park where they have lifeguards that are associated with that. So not having those as part of that is acceptable. You can delegate those responsibilities to professionals or other people that are part of that activity you're performing. The trainings that BSA offers that are required for this are safe swim defense, safety afloat, and one that's tagged in there that I think is critical is hazardous weather. All of those trainings are available online at myscouting.org, or as we've seen in some of the places, you can get them in person at different events. You can get them in person at camps. So any other places that I've missed, please, this is an interactive discussion between a bunch of people who already know most of this information. So please do not hesitate to jump in and add some color to any of these points here. I respect the education and experience in the room. and want to make sure that we get all the good points into this. Okay, with that, let's talk about some more safety. So as I said, I'm not going to go through the whole safe swim defense. This is not the intent of this discussion. But what I wanted to do, and the intent is to review the safe areas mostly so that as we, as scout leaders, evaluate, let's say we're hiking down a trail and we see a creek or see a lake or see a pond, can evaluate that pond and how we would see that as safe for the youth that are with us. So one, we know we need qualified supervision. You also need to understand the health of your youth that are with you. Yes, we have the A, B, and C forms, but you also need to understand a health review of your youth. But more importantly, what I want to explore is that because as leaders, we'll be hiking someplace and come across a body of water that looks inviting to go take your youth into. So I want to make sure that we understand as the leaders of these youth, what that looks like and what qualifies as an acceptable place for our youth to jump into. So the first thing to look at is a controlled access area. Safe water entrance for the youth and the adults. Easy for rescue. That's the one that kind of took me as I was reading through this to make sure that we have an ease of rescue. You can't just have your lifeguard on a cliff overlooking. The lookout can be on the cliff, but your rescuers, your lifeguards have to be able to get into that body of water as well. It also can't be in the middle of the boating or jet ski area. It has to be dedicated for swimming itself. Okay, even though you may be in a lake, but it has to be controlled so that no other activities are going on where your youth will be planning to be swimming. The bottom conditions, as you come across lakes up in at altitude, you have to be able to see that it is clear of debris and hazards. It has to be a maximum of 12 feet in clear water. I think that's the minimum. I'll take the cut and paste there, but it has to be able to see 12 feet in clear water and minimum 8 feet in turbid water. Now for visibility, underwater swimming and diving are prohibited in turbid water. You can't see because turbid water is when a swimmer is treading water and they can't see their feet. It's an easy evaluation. You ask your youth, can you see your feet? And they say no, then you can't, no swimming, no diving in that area. In regards to diving, the water depth has to be at least 7 feet minimum. And what I was surprised is there's a maximum diving from 40 inches above the water. So just under 4 feet is the maximum for diving into the water. Does that surprise anybody else? Is that already common knowledge? When you're looking for and evaluating areas for your youth, that's common knowledge. I thought that was a little low. Having some of the summer camps I've been to, where they have some high diving platforms, they're at 40 inches above the water. The water temperature has to be evaluated as well. Activity in the water the water temperature has to be 70 degrees. If it's less than that, you got to make sure you keep an eye on your youth. Blue lips, blue hamstring, get out of the water. Make sure you keep your exposure down. And again, I think it's presentation kind of wrong. Look for and outing, route back, and you got your youth through. What does it look like for a body of water for it to jump into? Watch out for small bodies of water that are high in algae, foam, close to livestock. If you wouldn't want to, my rule of thumb is if you wouldn't want to drink it, I really wouldn't want to go out into it. My 2 cents, that's kind of guidelines. That's my thumb for bodies of water. When you push that envelope a bit, of course, that's the guidelines that we're looking into. But make sure from your standard of leadership that you look into that and your eyes on is this someplace I really want to get into? Moving water, we live on a lot of rivers. And from that standpoint, watch moving water to make sure that your youth can keep their footing and maintain their footing on that body of water. They can't maintain their footing. It's too fast for them to get in without life jackets. We'll talk about that in point 9. Weather should also always count. Make sure that we move get away from the water if you start seeing any type of inclement weather. Honestly, this is people say lightning or thunder threatens. Almost any inclement weather should get scouts out of the water. Just got to be in a rainstorm in the lake. It's still probably a good point to get your scouts out of the water. It's safe to watch what's going on first, and maybe let them back in if it's a rainstorm. The last one, and please don't hesitate to go, Dave. That's not really what we should be doing. The last one is life jackets. Swimming in water over deep or charter over 8 feet deep or in flowing water may be allowed if you put on a properly fitted life jacket. And this is important when we talk about using life jackets and being able to swim while we're out in rivers. I've seen that a lot. You want to get out into the river, if a canoe, intentional or not, to go stay in, be able to swim. to be able to keep a life jacket on in things over 12 feet deep or in water over 8 feet deep. Any questions with that? It's pretty straightforward.
One of the discussions I had when discussing canoeing is that, you know, we have a distinction between, okay, why we wear a life jacket while we're swimming in a lake versus we don't wear that life jacket when we're swimming at a little swimming pool. And what is the difference? And the difference being, you're within, you know, at the swimming pool, you're probably within no more than 20 minutes from a mishap at a swimming pool to the emergency room, you know, versus hours if you're in a lake. So that's just
yeah, that's a very, very good point. You know, a distance to rescue, distance to assistance is
right. So even with swimmers in any trip I do, they always wear life jackets when they're swimming, when they're touching the water, they always wear a life jacket. And what I found is that they actually think it's kind of fun because, and it's great experience for them because they get to feel what does a life jacket really feel like and what kind of support do they get from a life jacket. So life jackets, when I do a trip, are mandatory 100% of the time, or no matter what kind of swimmer they are.
Sure.
Or adults.
Understood completely. And it just to caveat that with, you know, if you're in a swimming area, your designated swimming area that you're not in a canoe, you don't have access to the life jackets. All of these rules should be taken into account of what is a good, safe area. And honestly, from a leader standpoint, if you do not feel safe and it's not a safe area, then it's not a swimming area. That's definitely your call to say, no, we're not going to swim in this area. One, because maybe we're too far away from, say, assistance, from aid, from, getting any sort of aid up there, or it's just is an unsafe location. And that's really up to you. That's the guidelines that we have to live with and the guidance that you as the leader provide.
What are the guidelines in regards to kayaking or canoeing if you're on like a slow moving river? There's no rapids. You can stand in the river and not get knocked over or anything like that. Like the Coquille River is the one I'm thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody wears a life vest, that I understand. And everybody's with a buddy, like there's two or more in the canoe or kayak. But do they need to be in eyesight? Like if we go around a bend or something like that, do they need to be within eyesight of an adult, or like?
From the boat standpoint, you mean if they're still in the boat or are they swimming?
Yeah, no, not swimming. We are in the kayak or in the canoe, and our intention is to go like from Riverton to Bandon, for example, by canoe.
Uh-huh.
So it's quite a distance, several miles.
I got some thoughts on that, Dave.
Please. Thank you, Phil.
Okay. So first of all, even a relatively slow-moving river can be hazardous if there's a snag or a tree that has fallen into the river. So that's certainly something that has to be kept in mind. And what I think would be recommended there is that the scout leaders who are doing that trip should do the trip like a week before so that they can scout the river out to see if there's any of those kinds of snags that can be very hazardous. I've heard so many stories of people getting caught in snags and not always trained out very well. So I would say checking that out so that if there is a snag, and it's in a particularly bad spot, especially, then you just don't do that river. Mm-hmm. And then the second point is, even if there isn't any of those kinds of snags, that you would have a fairly responsible adult leading the group, and a responsible adult at the end of the group, so that everybody is sandwiched in between adults, and they can never go past the lead adult, and they can never fall behind the past adult.
Okay.
So that you always got somebody, they're always sandwiched in, and always an adult is keeping an eye upstream or an adult keeping an eye downstream.
And that's actually to go with Phil.
And of course, everyone's a swimmer.
That's what we've done as well, is we've had a lead boat that you cannot go past. And that's usually an adult or an assistant scoutmaster that's in that front boat. to be able to keep that from, it's kind of like a hike. You keep your slowest guys up front, you keep everybody behind it. And so this is the same thing. We have our lead boat that nobody can pass. They may be up along the same line with them, but they cannot pass that front person. And then, like Phil said, we have somebody that's in the far back sweeping to make sure we're not missing anybody along the way.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, does.
Great. So the next slide. So a little bit more safety, but we'll get through this real quick. We talked about responsible personnel, lifeguards to watch over the swimming areas. They're not in the water as much having fun. There should be lifeguards. And if you've designated them as lifeguards, they should know that. It can be rotating people, but they need to know that they are responsible people. A lookout is somebody that is not in the water. So that has to be somebody that is watching and scanning and even calling out buddy check along the way. But it's making sure that you've got somebody who's not in the water, not planning to be in the water, always scanning, even though you might only have 6 to 8 scouts. It's still somebody watching those 6 to 8 scouts, ensuring that they're safe. We all know about swimmer groups. Anybody who's been to summer camp knows about swimmer groups. Swimmers, beginners, non-swimmers. Make sure that if you're going in a boat, you've got swimmers in boats. Talked about the buddy system. It's not a surprise there. But the last one is discipline, and that's discipline from everybody involved. It's discipline of the lookouts, discipline of the response personnel, lifeguards, and discipline of the scouts themselves to keep themselves, they can have fun. The intent is to have fun. All of scouting is to have fun, but make sure that any type of horseplay that could endanger a youth is kept to a minimum around the water. It just takes a quick second to have something that could go wrong. So make sure you, as the leadership and the trained leaders, they keep that down to a minimum. But again, these are no surprises to anybody, especially everybody on this call. So now that we've talked about all the safety portion of it and what they can't do and what they should do, here's the things that are, from a summer camp standpoint, that are available for the youth. Swimming areas, we know from a summer camp standpoint. Boating activities, I know Baker has boating activities. Merit badges that are available for summer camp, swimming and life-saving. But then again, summer camps also have the mile swim as an activity that they can participate in. They can do scuba diving, whitewater, rowing, canoeing, rowing more, small boat sailing. I really like rowing. Small boat sailing, motorboating, and even water skiing. Some of the places that the youth can go do high adventure things. Sea base, we have a group from Shintimony that is going to sea base this summer. And I know Phil and I have talked about Boundary Waters multiple times. And so from activities that are BSA organized high adventure areas, these are some of the places that they can go to have a great time. And so the last slide, my last piece of this whole puzzle, now we know how to be safe. We know what BSA has to offer. So now as scout leaders, I wanted to open this up. What are some of the things that, here's what we've done. We've used local pools. Even during COVID, we've used local pools following COVID restrictions. We're looking at snorkeling in local pools to get ready for sea base. We've hiked and found this lake in the upper right-hand corner is Arrowhead Lake on the Pacific Crest Trail. It was a fantastic lake to hike into and to go swimming in. Places to go swimming are on the coast as well. But from that standpoint, and the bottom corner is Boundary Waters, just for my friend Phil, and then the Aquatic Center here in Corvallis. But from that standpoint, I really wanted to open it up to the rest of you and kind of bounce ideas off of some places that you've experienced with your troops, that you've taken them, that is a lot of fun, that we should all go to seek out as a fun activity for swimming as part of maybe an outing with our troop.
We have one family who has I think it's a beef farm. They have a farm over by Myrtle Point. The Coquille River passes through and their property, And that's what we did last summer in lieu of going to summer camp. Since summer camp was canceled, we spent like 5 days, 4 nights on their property. Basically, we pitched our tents in their the field with amongst the cow patties, and then we were able to go down to the river during the day and swim and fish, and it
Fantastic.
was
So
a
you,
nice little swimming pool.
in that standpoint, you had a swimming area designated for the Scouts to
Yeah, the family had kind of, I don't know if when they had done so, but it was kind of an area they had dug out of the river. There was a large rock, a very large rock, and they had tied a rope onto the rock so you could climb up on top of the rock and then jump into the water.
Uh-huh.
It was very clear. You could see the bottom and it was very deep. And yeah, it was just like the swimming hole in the middle of the river, and it was
Fantastic.
a nice sandy and rocky like beach, and so it was a nice spot.
Perfect. Thank you, Eva. Anybody else have a great place that they can share where we should take our youth?
There's a nice canoe trail that is just to the west of Eugene on Fern Ridge Reservoir.
Uh-huh.
It's called the Coyote Creek Canoe Trail, and it's you can Google it. You can get good directions, etc. But you start at the creek and you meander for probably a good mile, and then you can basically come out into the lake, and it's marshy and there's lots of wildlife, and there's not any power boats around because it's too shallow.
Okay.
So that's a nice place.
Can you please put the name
Yeah.
of it in the chat? Couldn't catch the spelling. Like,
Yeah, sure. It's Coyote Creek, like the wolf coyote.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can spell that. Never mind.
Okay. Sure.
Hey, Dave,
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned it because I've been popping around in rooms, but did you share the Where to Go Camping resource on our website?
I have not, Rob.
So if you will direct your browser to otcbsa.org/where-to-go-camping, or if you go to camping on the menu and go down to Where to Go Camping, there's a link right there where it says, click this link, Where to Go Camping. This is the newest version of the old OA resource for units on camping resources. Eugene Reynolds, who is the district commissioner in Cascade, put this together using Google Earth. And he has got tons of different campsites and things in there. It's really a cool resource. So I can't encourage you enough to go check that one out.
Perfect. Thank you, Rob. Rush, you look like you had a place.
Oh,
Yeah.
just a couple of thoughts. Last summer, our troop took a summer camp to Camp Baker just as a troop. And the waterfront was unavailable to us, but we were able to get in the water across at Honeyman at Cleewalks Lake,
Mhm.
which was using safe swim defense, a safe and very good alternative. So I thought I'd mention that because the boys enjoyed their time over there, and there are several locations where it can be done safely. Another thought is in Eugene, Springfield, in the past, pre-COVID, we'll see what opens this year, there's been a canoe concession at Alton Baker Park there at the pond that's commonly used for fishing. It's stocked off to the left as you drive in. From that location, you can go down and do a very, very, very short portage up above onto the Canoe Canal that goes behind Autzen Stadium through somewhat of a wilderness area. There's another brief portage, and then it goes up to the ponds at Chevy Chase and back. It's not a huge trip, but for young scouts on a hot summer night in the middle of the summer, it's a great alternative to a troop meeting. And the vendor, the concessionaire, has worked with us several times, and I think another troop has done this as well. The rentals are inexpensive, and so you know, that's an option to all of the troops to have an evening canoeing experience in place of a troop meeting on a clear, hot summer night. And it's a lot of fun, and it introduces the scouts to the skill. What I've been concerned about for years, of course, is the fact that a scout who goes to summer camp and who cannot pass the swimmer test, which is also a requirement for first class scout, is likely in any summer camp because the temperature of the water is going to be well below what you're used to in a swimming pool in Eugene. Is not going to be able to take advantage of challenging either the swimming merit badge, aquatic merit badges, or the boating merit badges. And so we encourage our families to work towards proficiency in the basic test under the first class scout, the 100 yards, including the elementary or resting backstroke and the float on the back in the pool, so that their scouts can enjoy the full summer camp program and are not just in the handicraft lodge. So, I just mentioned that. The other thing that I think scoutmasters should always keep in mind is that neither swimming or life-saving merit badge are any longer required for Eagle Scout. There are alternatives, and that's fine. Those are the national requirements. But that being the case, the only real verification that a scout who becomes an Eagle Scout today can actually be a proficient swimmer is that first class swimmer's test. And so if you want to know that your scout is a swimmer, you need to see them do it personally and in person in a natural body of water. If you permit parents who very much want to see their child succeed, do that test in a pool and you haven't seen it, you don't know that you have a swimmer. And if you go out and put them in the water, you definitely need to have the PFD on them if you don't know what that child can do. Because I've seen these situations where supposedly the scout has finished the first class swimmer test, but they get to summer camp where they have to show they can swim. And quite frankly, they can't do it. And so just something that's, I think, all scoutmasters and leaders should keep in mind.
Thank you, Rush. And I would like to get that information from you at a later point about the local downtown Eugene kind of activity for canoeing.
Sure. Okay. It's
I'll catch up with you and we'll get the information, because that sounds like a great activity. I've got a few more minutes. Anybody else have a great idea for scouts to go?
Well,
they've had a great time with?
We Troop 161, we really enjoy the natural water slide over at Triangle Lake. Is always a huge hit if troops haven't done that.
No, you're right. That's another good one. You're right, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, we wear helmets and life jackets because it's definitely, you're sliding down a rock, but there's a a controlled pool at the bottom, so you're not going to get swept down the river, and the kids just love that one for sure.
Definitely, that's a great one. I've been there personally, but not been there with the troop. That's a good idea. But the helmets are a great idea.
Oh yeah, I've seen people run into logs and stuff, or fall backwards, and so a helmet is absolutely necessary. But it's just great fun. We've had kids who were non-swimmers and heard about it and went and made an effort to become a swimmer so they could join us. So yeah.
Good point. That's a good enticement to go exactly what Rush was talking about, is to make sure that to entice them to come to do more swimming.
And the other beauty of that is that's the Triangle Lake drainage. So the water's coming off the surface of Triangle Lake, so it's quite warm. I mean, we usually get there at 9 o'clock before the crowds get there, and even then, on a summer day, the water's plenty warm. So it's really nice.
Great. Thank you. Anybody else? I got about a minute left to talk about. To throw out one more piece. This is exactly what I was hoping to do, is talk about and get ideas to take my troop at. Personally, my own personal, idea pool is to learn from all of you on where to take my youth. Anybody else? Going?
Where's
Can I put in a plug?
Triangle Lake? Sorry, where's Triangle Lake?
It's Mapleton. It's on the way to
Oh,
Florence.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Thank you.
It's, yeah, I mean, from Corvallis, it's, you know, it's just over an hour, I think. Eugene, it would be probably not much more. So yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
day outing, great day outing. Yep.
Awesome. I
Highway
am definitely
34.
looking into that. Yes. Well, we're coming from Coos Bay, so we'll go up 101, but
Thank you, everybody. We're getting kicked out of our breakout room. I really wanted to say thank you to everybody to participate in this breakout session. Thank you,
Thank you, Dave.
everybody.
Thank you, Dave.
thank you.
Great information.
Thank you.